It's been a really interesting journey for me, and I've really enjoyed being here with this. And today, I want to be talking to you about some of those things. And we've spoken and we've seen this all today. AI is moving from an experiential or experimental phase into something that's essential. And if we look at the key issue in AECO, it is that timelines are compressing and that our margins are razor-thin. We have to make sure that we find ways to differentiate ourselves from our competitors, utilizing our strengths that we've built up over years and starting to say, how do we take that, apply AI to those concepts and affect that margin squeeze without being a person that's being squeezed out of space. So when this topic came up and Jay and the team and the Modena team said to you, Simon, we need someone to talk about, how do we protect our intellectual property when we're doing this? So I thought, well, let's start somewhere completely over. So on one of our internal communication forums, there's this, we found this, the AEC magazine, and they track the top AEC applications, AI-driven AEC applications out. Whether it's free, whether it's open, whether it's paid for, it didn't matter, they're tracking all of them. When I actually scoured this report, there was only 48 of them. When I looked last night, there are now over 70 different applications that are out there. And these things look amazing. These tools have been created to fit into every space that we've got, every challenge that we've got. They talk about generative design, they talk about visualization, they talk about construction, they talk about coded compliance, and these tools look amazing. And they definitely, there's a lot of things in here that are incredible. If we just break it down into the respective spaces, that unlocking value and design and visualization, using generative space planning. Autodesk has been doing this for a long time. I remember seeing in Kenya 6 years ago, where guys were using machine learning to start generating and building spaces. And Form has been around for a long time from Autodesk, and it's different iterations, and it is an incredible product, Space Plan. We've also, on the other side, seen photorealism and real-time rendering. We're talking about this at lunch this morning, and Afrikaans wasn't very good, but I was understanding the conversation. That we were talking about, how do we start using photorealism? How do we start showing people houses as quicker? And how do we start implementing these things? And, this is something that can really cut our costs, cut our time, but using our intelligence and the effort that we put in, we can start really building good value out of AI. Has anyone seen generative space planning? No one. So he's going to have a look at it on the 25th. Autodesk is announcing something. I can't tell you, we're still under embargo, but it is going to be an incredible iteration about how we can start using AI to generate spaces. And if we could just give you a concept of what it is. You put in your constraints, and the system generates output for you. So you say, how many houses, how many spaces do I have, how many light fittings do I want, plugs, and it will generate your field path. Very, very clever. Technology, is it new? No, it's been around for years. The banks have been using it. That's how they profile your bank accounts, your insurance profiles. It's the same technology, now just applied in the space. So if I take this one step further, I can pick up daily constructions around operations and the constructive base. There are tools out there for capturing and analyzing, predicting and de-risking the operations of, including, your operations, your optimization, looking at your planning schedules. There are now tools that move right from you, take your traditional planning process and maps it all the way through so that we are able to predict delays before they happen. This is something that is really going to change the game for us. But there is a hidden cost. What is the hidden cost? Anyone know when Facebook and that first came out? It was free, right? When products are free, where do you make money? You are the product. Anything that is free, you are the product. And this is where we need to become very, very careful around this. Is what happens if we upload an unreleased client floor plan into a generator? What happens if I inadvertently go and use something like an open ML system and I put something in there and I say, hey, give me some iterations on this design. Who owns that design?
am I teaching that product to replace me in the future? Am I teaching my competitors to be able to use my knowledge
and put it into this model and take it out? And this is the danger of unregulated AI, ML, LLM systems. And we need to make sure that we have the governance in place to make sure that is controlled. And one of the biggest, maybe have at the moment, or the biggest opportunity that you have, is the ability to experiment. How many people, when that silly caricature thing came out in the first talk, how many people did they stand the caricatures? Anyone? Oh, after about 7,000. Eyes are closed and shoot. And then I realized that when I'm actually teaching that model, I'm saying, Simon is a fly fisherman, he loves being outdoors, he loves this, he loves that, that's what he's doing, and please draw me a picture. What have I just done? I've taught that ML engine, AI engine, who I am. And now, the next 6 months, my marketing effort inside Facebook and places, what do you think I'm going to see? Right? Because I took my data out there, but I've got pictures for it. That's, I've done that with my data. And this is the fun thing that we use to make sure that we're protecting our interests and making sure that we're not creating that shadow IT organization. Because our biggest risk is our architects, our juniors, our guys who are using products every day to people things. They put their stuff in there. And they do. We need to make sure that we've got those guardrails and those things in place. There's been a lot of chat about all of this, so I'll focus on them a bit as well. So we need to look at the AI IT risk spectrum and say, where is the low risk for us to go? Where can we work without causing problems to us? And where are high risk? And I can tell you, low risk is things like construction IQ that Nyasha spoke about earlier, and then your high risk areas are your open ML, your image generators. And not all AI is created equal. There are people that are coming out and they're putting out stuff every single day, saying we're the greatest and latest. But they may not be the right tool for your work. You may be, again, teaching your competitors your products. And we need to understand this as to the specific threat vectors in our workflow. So the one main thing is the public model trap. So product, and I looked again, so I took those 69, I think it was when I did the test, I put all those things into my NLM, and I said, guys, take these and see which ones are, look at their terms and conditions. See what belongs to you, what belongs to them, and what you're able to do. So a couple of things that we picked up was like Midjourney, which was a phenomenal tool that was allowing you to create visuals from public, your data that you're putting in. Midjourney owns your data as soon as you put something in. So immediately that's of us. And you contrast that to something like Adobe Fireflies or all of this social cloud where your IP remains your. And that's the thing around using this public model traps. They make them free, they make them available so that they are learning off your data. The black box risk is something that we've spoken a lot about here today. It was around what if we start using this technology to create verifications or to test models without checking the algorithm behind it. So that black box risk is around those hallucinations. As anyone's seen hallucinations in work, you put something into ChatGPT and it gives you completely wrong answer. I've done it myself. I was doing something for someone that I typed in, and now you have a product that said, please build a model for this and tell me what it does. And the next minute was, I think came out, it was talking about Internet of Things sensors, it was talking about, look, that's not what I asked you. But because what had happened is, there were two websites, a .co.za website and a .com website that were the same company name, just different products. It used the .com instead of the .co.za. So get a beautiful speech that we get to the customer, but completely the wrong content. So these things we need to look at. And then, of course, it's those shadow ingest. So we're looking at, are our staff using things like ChatAC, Symbols AI? These are very cool products, but where does the risk go and what are they putting into that? So when you're building a model for how we manage and put in place governance, we need to look at three things: people, process, and technology. So for our people, we need to implement an AI literacy program. And I know lots of us are small companies, and we're saying we don't have resources to trust me, do it. Say it's people, you're going to use AI. This is what you need to make sure that you're doing. These are the things that you need to do. You need to have things set in tractor shoes. Documents, you can come, you will say, we agree that visualization is great. Use AI to do visualization, but don't use it for hacking stuff too. So I'm just picking topics. Or look at your train your own agents instead of just doing blind trust. The second one is your process, and we spoke a lot about thin data. Thin data is very important. We start looking at your data classifications, making sure that we classify our data correctly, our layer conventions are correct, and that we are making sure that we are feeding in our models or large language models with correct information so that we can control it. And of course, then making sure that our prompts are sanitized and we had a peer review process in place. So if I do something using AI, someone's going to check it. You can't just release it. You need to make sure that someone's checking it. And then I spoke a lot about this. It's around the technology approving software usage within your company. Make sure that you say, guys, if you want to test AI, these are the products that we vet. These are the things that you can do. These are the things that you can't do. And creating those sandboxes. So there are two types of AI models. There's a model that runs in the cloud, and there's a model that runs on your own computer, on your environment. Right here in your environment, you can put the safeguards around it so that Claude cannot take extra data. The same things like Bromfield. NoProval is designed to only use the data that you use, cannot take third-party resources to put it in. So by putting in place the correct technologies, you are able to control the environment that you're working on. And some of the questions that you need to ask when you're doing vendor vetting is, where does that data reside? Deep sea, can you run? Straight into China. Good luck. Can you get that today? You need to know where that lives and what is going to happen to it. Then, what are you going to be training your ops? How do you opt in and opt out? So if I'm giving data to Google now to do my research, can I get my data back? Can I opt it out? It's important things that you need to ask and make sure. And then you need to have regulatory compliance. It's wonderful that an AI model engine will tell you that they are completely locked down and they will never use your data to actually share it with other people. But are they SOC 2 compliant? It's important because if they're not SOC 2 compliant, so they're not data protected, the data is not secure. Without SOC 2 compliance, you're not able to manage it, you're not able to manage the data, and there are risks. So if we're using these tools to do work on our behalf, we need to make sure that we have implemented the safety measures, we put those things in place, and we vetted to make sure that they're compliant. And then there's three, if I talk about a roadmap and talk about how the steps that you need to take to get there, the first thing that I would do if I were going home tonight is I would do an audit of all shadow IT within your environment. Audit. Check what your guys are using. Check where they go. I found myself yesterday helping my wife with something. She was saying they got this massive bill from Google and they couldn't figure out what it was for. Half the developers had turned on Gemini and Notebook LM and were using credits at a crazy rate. They didn't know that their developers had turned on this feature. So you need to make sure that you're auditing and checking this, and there are ways to do it. I can share with you ways around that. And then the second phase of that is deploying an AI-approved sandbox. So create that secure closed-loop environment with permissions, with access, and allow people to work within it, and then train and develop your guidelines. AI is something that evolves every single day. It's an incredible tool that can help you do your job faster and work, but you need to make sure that you put in those guidelines in place. And then your last phase of this is around you doing your enterprise integration. So taking those tools as you now training those models, looked at in taking that information, building your information data, or what do you call it, your brain, basically training the brain of that child. Take that and now apply it to your enterprise level engagement. So linking it to things like AEC or whatever you want to do from there. So when I talk about a walled garden, create that walled garden. Because you can see all of those things are out there. Choose the product you want to work on and make sure that you're creating that walled garden or walled city around what you're going to be using. And the advice I can give you here is pick companies and pick products that you can trust, that you know have got the corporate governance in place, that you know have got the background. So they may not be on the leading edge or the bleeding edge of this change, pick the guys that are just behind them, the guys that you know, people that have taken the time to research their product and secure their product. That's where I would take my bet and work with those people. Then, of course, it's creating those guardrails and your 5-level guardrails. So we spoke about, doing that audit and making sure that your audit is in place, your data is secure, and it's not going out. Then go, and what we do is we say, take your 5-level governance framework and start with your data classification. And the great tools out there from companies like Cloudera, Microsoft, Amazon, and that they can help you with this, and you can then put out your data classification layers. And this is where you go and you say, what is sensitive, what is proprietary to a customer, and what can I share? What is my IP that I can work on? Then put in place the tool approval layer. And this is where you have in place a process that says, if we're going to implement this tool, who needs to check it? What are we checking for? Why are we checking it? And then approve it. And they always make sure that there's a human in the loop. That example I think Jay gave earlier about where it was the tool was creating this, we call it a smear campaign against the person. I quite enjoy that, but you need a person in the process. You need someone, and we spoke earlier about the risk. It made me think a lot about how do we transfer this across? You can't. You need to take responsibility. So if you're the agent or the courier using AI, you need to take the responsibility and make sure that you're protecting your risk. Then you need to take one step further and look at your contracts with your customers, legal contracts, and make sure that you have in your contracts the AI clauses to protect your work. If you've used AI, you need to make sure that you put in clauses with your customer, and as your customer or partner is using AI, you need to have that also included and covered. And then the last one is that continuous monitoring. You need to make sure that you're monitoring your intellectual property and you're monitoring who has access to your data. It's really important that you do that because you don't want to end up in a thing where your designs, your models, your families are suddenly out there and everyone has access to them and you have no control. So monitoring is very important on that side. So if we take this back and we just talk about our little funnel on it and we put a funnel in place and say, any automated documentation or AI-generated automated process needs to have the data verified, it needs to have an approval, it needs to have a human interface, you have to have that legal input, and you need to be able to monitor it. That way we can create a safe, standardized, and accelerated design to construction workflow. And governance is not a road, it is a filtration. By putting this in place, you will be able to make sure that you're clarifying over the chaos, you're improving innovation, because what AI is, it's innovation. It's about how do we do things faster and better with data. We don't want to stop that, but we want to make sure that we're putting in place the guardrails that will allow people to do it. And then, of course, once we've designed and found how to use that AI tool to give us an edge over our competitor, or to be able to show that 2% of our costs, we need to be able to protect it. Because that's now our IP that we've generated using AI. So in closing, and I know they're being very fast today, in closing, you need to make sure that you are securing AI as a digital asset. AI isn't the differential. The governance of how you use AI is. And that's the most important thing I can leave you with today, is that if you can take AI, put the governance framework in place, you will be able to do things like differentiate yourself in the market. You could be able to say to people, I could do the same job as I was doing last month 6 times faster because of the changes that I put in. I can do things like efficiently protecting my margin and protecting the workflows that I've created to improve my return on investment on the product. And then, of course, it's always your bottom line. Everything we do today is around improving our bottom line. And when I talk to customers and talk to people about using AI and using tools, it's no longer about this cool, fancy thing that I can do. It's around how do I affect the bottom line of my business and how do I drive return on investment. And we need to change that discussion with people. I'll just give you a story on this. Everyone knows the fuel price is going through the roof, right?
If you look at the biggest trend, we have partner that we represent, Esri, Modena is now an Esri partner. I've had 9 conversations this week with customers saying to Simon, how do we use data to protect our assets in the field, know where they are, know what they're doing. Vehicles, for instance, how fast are my vehicles? Where are they? Are they on site? Are they off site? Do I have yellow metal that's standing and I'm not using it anymore? By using data and using big data, we can suddenly take it, not just the construction process, but we can look at all the peripheral costs that are put around it. Because if I'm renting a truck, a TLB today from the rental company, and I'm getting it on site today, but my project's only starting tomorrow, that's costing me money. And if I can use AI to predict when I need that yellow metal on site, that is going to save me effort, it's going to save me money in my project, and it's going to drive data for me. So I'd like to leave you with that, and I'd say thank you very much today. I'm going to hand over to Jay.